Texas does everything big, and they've approved Bible-infused curriculum for public schools. But why? Here's the scoop. Today's article comes from Kera News, which is NPR for North Texas, and I found this interesting. I really don't touch on education a lot. It is muddy waters. Seriously, it is. But I decided to tackle this article today, and we're going to read it. It's a short article, and then I'm going to give my viewpoint and perspective on it. So let's jump into it. The Texas State Board of Education today gave final approval to a controversial new elementary curriculum that features numerous biblical references from stories about King Solomon to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Hey there! Thanks for clicking on the video. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell for notifications. Now, let's get back to the scoop. The board voted 8-7 in favor of the state-developed, quote, blue bonnet learning, end quote, English and language arts material, which critics say privilege Christianity over other religions. A narrow majority of the board, consisting of 11 Republicans and 4 Democrats, had signaled earlier in the week it would support the new curriculum. The majority was persuaded by speakers like Mary Elizabeth Castle with the faith-based Texas values, who addressed the board earlier this week. Quote, if we reject any kind of reference or instance of religion in any education, students would be bereft of understanding so many common things in society and literature and in government, end quote, Castle told State Board of Education members. Schools aren't required to use Bluebonnet learning, but the state will offer financial incentives to districts that do. The curriculum has been the subject of scrutiny and criticism since the state unveiled it in May. Board member Rebecca Bell Meterow praised Bluebonnet learning officials for adding references from faiths other than Christianity after she and others questioned the curriculum's singular Christian focus, but the changes weren't enough to change her mind against the Bluebonnet plan. Quote, it seems to me like it's trying to place a band-aid on a gaping wound, end quote, Meterow said. Among other biblical references, the K-5 curriculum teaches kindergartners about the Golden Rule, using texts from the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, along with references to Islam and Hinduism. The teacher's guide states, introduces 5th graders to Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, based on the Christian Bible story about the last meal of Jesus of Nazareth, and features a story on the parable of the prodigal son, derived from the book of Luke, a book of the New Testament of the Christian Bible. Mark Chancey, a religious studies professor at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, testified earlier in the week that he's not opposed to teaching religion in schools, but the Texas curriculum overemphasizes Christianity over other religions. Quote, not only is it taught in such a way that's going to promote some religions over others, but in many cases, it even just gets the basic facts wrong, end quote, he said. But proponents said the materials are well-rounded and teach students about classic literature. So, guys, I do have some thoughts about this, which is why I wanted to talk about this story. So, where do I begin? So, the United States, as we all know, they separated church and state to protect religious liberty and individual freedom, and to prevent the government from becoming too powerful. Also, the Church of England ran and controlled every aspect of England, and America did not want that here. Okay, so that's just a standard thing that needs to be said. So here's the deal. From my perspective, the problem appears to be that on the left, they have made a God out of gender identity. And to strike back, or maybe even attempt to strike a balance, the right is wanting to bring in aspects of the Bible into the classroom. It's like basically if you could talk about gender, choosing your gender, teaching sex education, then we should be able to have Bible verses being taught in the classroom. The problem is, for example, in slavery, there was a slave Bible, a special Bible they gave to the slaves with verses that they cherry picked and interpreted to the slaves in a certain way that kept many of them subservient and believing that enslavement was their destiny and rebelling would send them to hell when they die. So these parts of the Bible that they're cherry picking to be taught in the classroom, they have to be analyzed to see what messages will be spread with them and will they in fact actually be taught correctly, like in the context that they really were meant. Okay. It's tricky because, again, we have different teachers from different cultural backgrounds. Some teachers have never read the Bible. Some teachers are devout Christians. Maybe they're Bible readers all the time. Some teachers may call themselves Christian, never read the Bible in their life, right? You don't know who's going to be dispensing this curriculum. But if they also are dispensing curriculum, the people who wrote the curriculum, they've interpreted what they believe these verses mean in the Bible. And that also may be incorrect because the Bible is a spiritual book, right? And a lot of people end up reading it in the physical. And they misinterpret what it really means because they're reading it in the physical. If your hand offends you, cut it off. They don't really mean to cut off your hand, right? So again, how will this be interpreted and could it be misinterpreted? It definitely can be, right? So like I said, it's tricky. I would agree. There definitely needs to be a balance. There should be no brainwashing on either side. But is that even possible? Is the question, Is it possible? I'm not sure. But you might be. Let me know in the comments what you believe and how you feel about this topic. Should religion be kept out of schools? But if that's the case, should gender identity, politics also be kept out of the schools? Both can lend themselves to extremism, depending on who's in charge of disseminating the information. So should they both be out? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. It's a toss up. And again, this is why I don't really talk about education a lot. It's very muddy waters. And, education has become very, very political. And instead of like us dealing with teaching kids how to read properly, how to have a bigger vocabulary, math, science, we seem to be, focusing on things that just to control their minds, not to really expand their minds, but just to control their minds, right? And giving them different ideology, politics in the classroom to just control them, but not to get them to think and critically think and be outside the box thinkers. We're not really doing that for these kids. So let me know in the comments what you think about this story, and I will see you next time.